afternoon, Tariq, Mr. Atif Ziam. How are you? And welcome everyone to this installment of the Future Forward Speaker Series hosted by Professor Tariq Khan. As you probably know, this series is dedicated to bringing visionary leaders that are shaping the future of business and technology to share their insights with us. And today, we're privileged to host Mr. Atif Ziam, a principal at U.S. consulting lead at KPMG, one of the world's leading professional services firms. Mr. Zaim has been instrumentally guiding organizations through complex transformations, leaving a lasting impact on the business world. His leadership at KPMG has driven innovation and delivered strategic solutions across various sectors, including financial services, healthcare, and technology. Let's welcome Mr. Atif Zaim to this insightful session, and thank you, Tariq, for doing this.
Thank you, Jose. My name is Tariq Khan. I'm a clinical associate professor here. I see many of my students. Today, we are very fortunate to have Atif Ziam, who is the U.S. head of consulting practice for KPMG. He is participating in our leadership series. So all our leadership students and many other students. And then those who are joining us on Zoom as well, thank you for joining. And this class is also recorded, and it will be played for the students of Executive Masters for one of the courses. So, Atif, welcome to NYU. Let's get started. I would be spending about 40 to 45 minutes in having a fireside chat, and I'll allocate the last 10, 15 minutes for the questions from the students. So make sure that you have all those questions ready. I see many familiar faces, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. So, Atif, you did a pretty big job of leading the advisory consulting side of KPMG, the Big Fours. But share with us your journey from this seat to this seat. When you were in college, a few years ago, how did that all started? And was it a part of your plan, or it just happened?
First of all, you're very kind for saying that it was only a few years ago. It was a little bit longer than 2 years ago. But I think so. I studied accounting, and I joined KPMG as a trainee accountant, as they call it, qualified with them as a chartered accountant. I was in London, and then I moved to the US and had I was doing accounting and auditing here as well, and I was kind of getting I wanted to do something different than accounting, and then I came to the US. It's kind of interesting. The accounting regime is slightly different between the two countries, and the US one is very, very specific. There's a lot of rules. So when I was in the UK, it was the standard. We were up to standard number 3. And in the US, it was standard number 133. So I said, you know what, I'm going to try and do something different. So I got into consulting. And then, so I was in consulting, I was having a good time. I was focused on financial services at my clients. So that was a very useful link, both in the UK and in moving from auditing to consulting, because at least you know about the business of the client while you learn a new skill around consulting. And then we had, within KPMG, if you go back into history, we had a little bit of a spin out of our consulting business, and it became KPMG Consulting. It was listed, and then I think it became Bearing Point. And I decided not to go with them and started doing different types of things that KPMG itself was still willing to do. So we spun off some activities and we were doing some other activities. Stayed in it, and then we started the consulting business again in 2007. Played a number of roles in it. Many of them around serving our clients, some of our largest clients, banking clients. And then that expanded into doing things broader than just a single account, broader than just financial services, and then now to lead the US consulting business. So that's a little bit of a chronological journey.
Wonderful it is. Now, getting to this role, you had several multiple leadership roles, and within an organization, and I believe now leading a team of 12,000 plus people. Share your experience of your peaks and valleys, the challenges and opportunities in a leadership role, and lessons learned during that process.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is understanding your strengths and your weaknesses. and having the maturity to know that you have weaknesses. And it becomes easier for some people than for others. It came late and hard for me. It wasn't easy for me to accept that you can edit. I don't know, it's part of growing up, part of maturity. So when Tariq, you talk about valleys, so you were up for a particular role or an assignment and you didn't get it. The depths of disappointment that you can get yourself into is, I guess it's natural, but one of the things that I probably had a hard time learning, and if I were to do it again, probably would have benefited from some coaching or mentoring around. Yes, you can mourn the fact that you have that setback, but as quickly as possible, step back and with a rational mind, because one of the things that we are as consultants is very analytical, right? And logical. So step back and analyze as if it were somebody else. What is it that you had or you didn't have to be successful? So let's say you are pitching to a client and your firm didn't get selected, somebody else got selected. Get over the disappointment and try to get as much as you can in terms of learning so you get better from it next time. And that's, I would admit it, I think it came a little bit late for me. I found it really hard to process the emotions and get past the setback and learn from it and try for the next one.
Great, good input. You must have worked with several leaders throughout your career. You have been a leader yourself, and there are a lot of people who work with you that you're developing them for leadership. There are a lot of students sitting here, and they are studying leadership. And in the book, I talk about 11 traits of leadership. That includes vision, resilience, transparent communication, ethics. From your perspective, what are some of the key traits of leadership that have been very useful in your growth and when you are selecting people that you look for?
So I think probably the most, so you mentioned a number of them that are obviously important, right? Are you a visionary? Are you resilient? Are you execution focused? Are you coming up with great ideas? I think all of them are important. The most important thing I would say is for you to know what is most important for you, or what's your biggest skill, or what's your biggest strength. Because let's say you are great at ideas, at setting out the vision, then you have to surround yourself with a number two or other team members that are excellent at execution, right? And both of you cannot be focused entirely on vision, because then you'll keep daydreaming the whole day long and nothing will get done, right? You need to have somebody with you. So I would say one of them is, obviously you need to have a base level of competency and a number of leadership skills. But your superpower may only be in one or two of those areas. Resilience is another one. I like to think that I'm quite resilient. When people describe me, they'll say that we just don't quit. We just keep going at it. Like, okay, this was a setback, but I'm going to keep going, keep going, keep going. So the important thing is recognize what type of leader you are, and then make sure that there's somebody that there in your team that is responsible for complementing you and getting you there. And in terms of understanding what type of a leader you are, one of the concepts, it's not mine, so I can't remember who told it to me or where I read it, but having this personal board of directors. What that means is you need to have mirrors around you that can reflect back onto you what you're good at, what you're not good at, and you need to get it from a number of different places. So for somebody like me, it is certain members of clients that I've gone into, listen, I would like you to be my mentor, my coach, people within the organization that you work in, family members, as well as some friends, because everyone sees a slightly different side of you. And having those reflections from a personal board of director can then help you create that composite view. And sometimes it could be that you're really good in a particular setting, so in a friendship setting or in a client service setting, and that same thing doesn't come out in another setting. It could be that. But I generally find it gives you a pretty good view of who you are, and then you can recognize what is your superpower versus what is something that you need to have the right people around you to make sure that together you're a complete unit.
No, well said. Because it's very difficult for any particular leader to have all of these. Right? There are very few. So I think compliment yourself with those that you don't have skills. Let's come to your career at KPMG. Very unusual for many people sitting in the audience. You've been with one company for 30 years.
I know nobody else walked in there.
Yeah. And I don't know if this was by a plan or accident. In the older days, yeah, it was a good thing to be loyal to one company. Just share with us that, what really kept you here and, how you focused and stayed well. And not only they didn't want you, but KPMG really wanted you. Exactly. So they're holding on to you. It's very difficult. I spent 20 years in corporate, and I know how difficult the higher you go in the organization, the more difficult the more environment becomes to you.
Yeah, I think there's so many different ways to answer that question. I'll maybe give you a couple points of view. One of them is, are you doing the same thing over and over again? And if you're doing the same thing over and over again, I mean, listen, I don't want to speak for all of humanity. I'll just speak for myself. If I'm doing the same thing over and over again, I am going to get bored. And if I cannot find variety within the same organization, then I will be in a different organization. Mm-hmm. So if you look at my career at KPMG, you would see that it's not actually, I might have been with the same firm, but I've been in different practices. I've been in at least 3 or 4 different practices. I have been in 2 different continents and countries. I have mostly focused on one industry, which is so my personal work in financial services, but in a management role, looked at a number of different industries. So a little bit of that is, I would say, I never really got bored, right? And one of the things that I tell folks oftentimes is, how do you judge if a job or a career is worth your time? It's, are you having fun and making an impact, and are you learning? And if you stop learning, then that's the time to look elsewhere. And I haven't stopped learning. So now that doesn't mean that throughout the 30 years there weren't opportunities that made me think twice. And in my case, there were opportunities with other consulting firms, but most of the time it was clients because you already knew them, you were working with them day in, day out. And they will say, hey, listen, it would be great if you came and worked for us directly. And, you get early in your career, you get an opportunity once a year. Every couple, 3 years, you get an opportunity that makes you think. It stops you dead in your tracks. Maybe it's the type of work that you'll be doing in that opportunity, or it could be the amount of money they're putting in front of you. It could be, anywhere from hey, we're going to give you 2x to 3x what you're making right now, type of thing. That makes you think you should. It would be foolish if you didn't think about that. You should. And I think in most cases, and this is where the board of directors comes in, right? So that one, which is a while ago, so the statute of limitations that expired on that, so I can talk about it. It was a while ago, and my board of directors that was most relevant on this was a client and my wife. And I went to both of them and said, I have this opportunity. It is an amazing opportunity. And I need to decide what to do. So it's kind of funny. The client says, well, why wouldn't you come work here with us? And I need you not to be a shark right now. I need you to be a mentor and a friend and tell me. And she gave me some great ideas. And then I spoke to my wife. And one thing that my wife said that I should have known intuitively, but sometimes when somebody reflects it onto you, it makes a lot more impact. She goes, you're going to miss the people. You're going to miss the people that you work with. And, you can sometimes say, hey, your days are long. And then when you add people events at the end of the day, they get even longer, etc. But I know how that gives you energy. And I know how valuable these relationships are for you. And whether they're relationships with peers, that you grew up together in the firm, or relationships where you're developing people that are coming behind you, Like your bosses and your leaders, people that you can learn from. And the example, specific example she gave me, and not to be proud of it, but she goes, you were almost as excited when you promoted your first council lead to a partner as you were with, when our kids were born. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think that's kind of the point that you get input from a number of different sources, and they can tell you quite a bit about yourself that may not even be apparent to yourself, and that is part of the reason why I've been here for 30 years.
So I could summarize: always listen to the women in your life. They're usually right.
Yeah.
Let's take a deeper dive into your role right now. You're leading the consulting practice. The big fours. Tell us what do you do every day, and the horizontal and the vertical approach of your work.
Yeah.
As a leader of consulting business at KPMG.
So what you're doing, there's another ways to answer that question. So if you think about it, you have, who do you want to serve? So who are the clients that you want to be serving? To which industry? What size of clients? What is it that you want to? What are your products and services? Right. So you're going to decide that, and then your people and technology. So those are the big three things that, as a leader of consulting, one, you've got to set the strategy to say, okay, I'm going to do this particular solution or servicing. So as an example, I'm going to do marketing consulting in B2B, but I'm not going to do it in B2C. As an example, that's a type of decision as a head of consulting you get to make. Or I'm going to provide that service to mid-market companies, but not to Fortune 500, or vice versa, right? So those sorts of intersections you've got to do. And then you've got to think about how are you, the people in a consulting business, people are the most important asset. Absolutely. So everything from what kind of culture you want to create. We call it a high performance culture that's courageous, that's collaborative, that's focused on integrity and excellence. Those are our core values, if you like. And there's 100 decisions to be made, each one of which you've got to observe from the lens of what is it that you want to create. There are things around your strategy. So how much do you want to do from campus, hiring new people? How much do you want to do for experienced hires, people who are coming from either industry or other consulting firms? You got to think about your offshore strategies, so the people you may have in Mexico or India, et cetera. And then automation. I know we're going to talk about AI because no conversation would be complete without it. But so a lot of those fall into setting the strategy and then making all those tiny adjustments that you've got to make as you go along. And then the other part of the role is when you've set the strategy, when you've set the plan for the coming year. Our year ends in September, so we're just in the beginning of the new year. And then making sure that you're delivering on that plan and making the necessary in-year adjustments to get there.
So what is the secret code? When you're leading a large organization and for a Fortune company, leadership challenges are always surfacing in and out. What's your process? What is the method to the madness that you use? Either it's delegation or empowering people. What has really worked well?
So I'll probably answer that question in a slightly different way, and I'll talk about a challenge. So I think most of us, it's certainly true for me, are good in smaller groups where you get to, so a smaller group doesn't mean like 3 people. A smaller group could be 30 people or 50 people. I think once you get beyond 75 or 100 people, it's kind of difficult to have that personal relationship, right? But as it happens, I'm really good at that, right? So if I can interact with people, the people that I do interact with on that level where I know their names, we get to interact a number of times a year. I know what they're doing, they know what I'm doing, all those sorts of things. I'm very good at that. So I'm very, I can inspire them, I can motivate them. I can mentor them and all those things. So I get very good marks on that. The challenge is how do you scale that to a 12,000 person organization, right? Where it is an impossibility for you to get to know them on a one-on-one basis. And it goes in two directions. So there's two things you could do. One is in a broadcast setting, what are you doing, right? And that requires a completely different skill, because how you relate with 8,000 people in the audience, 5,000 people in the audience versus 20 people in the audience is completely different. And it's not just because you're good at one doesn't mean you're going to be good at the other. So in that context, and that journey is not over, all right, for me, right? So you continue to see what is it that if somebody is spending their hour listening to you, talk about what is it that they want to hear, what is it that they're going to get the most value out of, and what is it that you could do to motivate them in that short, reasonably impersonal medium that you have, right? So there's a whole thing that you got to do, and there's a lot of work that I do with my team to think about what's the right message, how should you deliver it. We'll do dress rehearsals, etc. And the one thing I will tell you that I have heard from every expert in the field is authenticity is going to win every single time. If you come around and you just, so let's say you've had a slow year and you come around and you're all like, oh, I'm going to motivate everyone and tell them we are fantastic and we've had a great year, and do not acknowledge any of the issues that you've had over the past year, you're going to lose the crowd immediately. They're going to stop believing in you, and they'd be right to, because they can see with their own eyes what's going on, and here you are saying something different, right? So that's all in one category. And the other category is how do you get your team to be your extension? So you got to meet with the 8,000 people, but your immediate team of, let's say 12 people, and then the next level team of 100 people, they can get to the sub 100 or sub 75 groups of people. So spending a lot of time with them. And it's kind of, the biggest challenge is, if you're any business, right? We want to grow. We want to be profitable. We want to do good things for our people. It's like a handful of things you're going to do, right? The challenge is in the nuance. How are you going to do those? And that's where you've got to spend a lot of time with your leadership team through a lot of decision making, a lot of triaging of issues that come up, and making sure that they can see your vision. And most importantly, will they answer this question the same way that you would have done? And that is a lot of work. But if you can get that right, then you can get to that big team of people and really get your vision, your philosophy, and your motivation out there without being able to deal with that on a one-on-one basis.
So many of them are strategy students as well, and that's part of your role. How do companies pick up, like at KPMG? And I think the financial industry has done very well. The big fours, maintaining that no one has a full mind share, like other industries. But how do you decide that, hey, sometimes you don't have an option, that we have to compete with the Deloitte, EY, and PwC. And what's your position on other consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG, and Bain? How internally, how does it happen, whatever you're able to share, that process that, which industries are we going to compete in and what we're not going to, which companies are we going to compete in? How does that decisions are made at that level?
Yeah, so I think maybe just for the audience, if you look at the consulting industry broadly, you have the strategy or mainly strategy firms, the McKinsey, Bain, BCG. You have the big four that are attached to or are connected with an auditing and accounting firm and a tax firm. That's our model. Then you have more tech-oriented firms like IBM and Accenture, and then you have the firms that got their start in outsourcing, the Cognizant and Tata, the Indian outsourcers that have also do consulting. So those are kind of broad buckets, and And yes, there's significant overlap between us, but we all do more of one thing than we do the other. Our superpowers are different, right? So within the Big Four, within KPMG specifically in consulting, our brand is that we are a full service provider, in that our clients expect us, you're a Big Four, you're present in around the globe, and you can essentially meet most of the needs in professional services that we have. And obviously there are exceptions, but by and large you can do that. So the challenge, the strategy challenge that comes is, would you, for every sector and every offering, put the same amount of investment and effort and priority, or would you pick between them, right? And my hypothesis is, if you're not picking, you don't have a strategy, right? So the strategy is as much about what you're not going to do as it is about what you're going to do. So yes, we routinely get into and have those conversations, and some of those decisions are temporal, in that for the next 3 years, we're not going to focus on this, or for the next 3 years, we're going to have a special focus on this. And then others are permanent or longer lasting, to say, hey, for the foreseeable future, this is not a business that we're in. So for instance, we're not in the engineering business, right? Now, that's an obvious one. You wouldn't expect a professional services firm like the Big Four to be in the engineering business. But it is a decision whether, no matter how conscious or unconscious we are, but that's something that we don't do. So that's how you make some of those decisions. And then you have operational strategy, right? So you've picked an area of focus, a market you're going to go after, an industry, an offering you're going to go after. There's more than one way to get there.
And geographical, so right? Sometimes
and geographical territories. There are, how much of that is going to be delivered through automation? How much of that is going to be delivered through a particular staffing model? Are you going to have all the staff yourself? Or are you going to have an alliance with the delivery partner? So there's all these numerous operational decisions that you make. And then there is, how are you organized? Right, so in a consulting firm, you can organize by yourself by industry. So you have subunits under consulting for financial services and government and healthcare and all that sort of stuff. You can do it by geography. So you can say, hey, it's the Northeast and Midwest and all that sort of stuff. You can do it by competency. So here's the marketing, sales, and service people. Here's the finance people. Here's the risk people and all that sort of stuff. And most of the consulting businesses are matrices, right? But you have active decisions to make how you organize, because it gives you different outcomes. It sets different incentives for individuals. You put different leaders in place, etc. So those are some of the things that we get into.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Let's shift the discussion to our favorite topic. I was reading an article recently in The Economist, the impact of AI on all businesses, and this article was about consulting.
Yeah.
And it's called, it could be an enabler, or it could be a competition. So the external view is that it's going to change the business drastically. What is the internal view, or from the perspective that you're sitting in, what are some of the impact that you see, and how are you preparing yourself?
So I'd probably clarify one thing first. So AI has been around for a lot longer than 2 years ago when ChatGPT came up with generative AI. And we've been using that quite significantly in our business. And so in running our business, we have an AI model we've had for years that predicts based on a whole bunch of different inputs, machine learning and what have you. Here's some math that says this is what we think forecast growth is going to be, et cetera, and then many other decisions, staffing, hiring, all that sort of stuff. So we've been using that for a long time. This generative AI bit has done two things. One, it has added genuinely new capability, because a lot of the AI that we had before was more numbers oriented, and Gen AI is a lot more words or language oriented. So there's that difference. And the other thing that it's done is it has really it has fascinated people. It's captured the attention of C-suite leaders around, because they can go experience it, right? So as a C-suite leader for myself, I can see the output of traditional AI, but I never kind of directly, viscerally experience it. Whereas with Gen AI, anyone can go to ChatGPT and answer something and write me a sonnet with this kind of whatever, and out comes a result, and it wows you. So what that's done is it has gotten the whole interest in the field to be a much higher level, which creates opportunities for us, but internally as well as with our clients. So one of the questions that I get quite often is, does this mean you need fewer people? Because if you can automate the work that consultants do, then you don't need as many of the people that you use today to do the work. And my answer is, I don't think so. I don't think so. And listen, you've got to have a little bit of humility in this one, because predicting the speed at which this is moving and predicting with certainty, or I definitely think this is going to happen or that's going to happen, it's a little bit of a mug's game, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a little bit like, and I'm going to take you back to you guys are going to say it's the Stone Age. There was, once upon a time, analysis used to be done in 16-column sheets of paper. You guys have no idea what that is. But it used to be a sheet of paper, it had 16 columns on it, and it looked like a spreadsheet, right? But except it was actually a sheet, it was paper, right? And you did that, and people would put numbers, and then they would get out a calculator, add it up, and all that sort of stuff. That was analysis. And then Excel came out, and well, Lotus 1, 2, 3 first, but then Excel. And there was a little bit of, oh my God, all these analysts that we have, there's not going to be any work for them, because now you can do in seconds what takes others minutes or hours to do. And the end result of that was what I hadn't appreciated at the time, or others who were worried about it, was this unmet demand for analysis in the business world. So the reason they were getting 100 units of analysis was because that's the only thing they could afford. But if they could afford it, they actually wanted 1,000 or 10,000 units of analysis. And as a result, this was a cheaper way to do that, and therefore get to a lot more, satisfying a lot more of their demand. And I think something more akin to that is going to happen, as opposed to this fixed demand and the supply not needing to be as much because much of it's automated. I think the way it's going to work is the demand for the things that we do is probably a lot higher than folks can afford. But if you can make it cheaper, faster, better, the demand actually expands. And as a result, you do that. Now, it doesn't happen automatically, right? You can't just sit there and say, oh, it'll just happen over time. So we internally and with our clients are doing a lot of work and thinking through the best things that could be automated. And we've done a lot of learnings now in terms of realization that Gen AI, part of AI, is good at language, so stop using it for numbers. It's not very good at numbers, right? So you use the old-fashioned AI for numbers as an example. What are the tasks that it is readily useful for? So as an example, a comparison of documents is something that we often find doing in our business. Distilling a large portion of documentation or conversations into something logical, useful for any purpose is something that we do. And those are things that we're doing now, or beginning at least to do now, to try and get us to a better place. I mean, I'll just give you a very simple example of if you implement a new system. So you implement a CRM, customer relationship management system. You need to write documentation for that system, user training manuals, and all that sort of stuff. And most of the companies that we work for don't operate in a single language country, right? So they're going to have operations in Germany and in China and wherever else. So you got to convert that into a lot of different languages. And we used to do that, using translators and human translators, what have you. You don't need that anymore. You can get it done just like that. So there's a lot of these use cases that are coming in, and I think what we'll do is It will make consultants a lot faster, a lot smarter, and as a result, I think increase the overall demand that our clients have for consulting.
Okay, I'm going to change the focus now to regional intelligence, or SMP.
Yeah, the original intelligence.
Yes. The next generation of your team members. So let's talk about this. When you must have hired thousands of people in your career. Looking at today's environment and everything that's available today, what are some of the key factors that you're looking for when you're hiring and promoting people?
So I think there's the obvious one, right? So what kind of education do they have? What kind of grades did they get? Which is a proxy for how IQ and hard work, and what kind of interpersonal skills that they're bringing. I do think there's something that's not captured in all of those traditional metrics, and that is how curious you are. So this is, I'm not saying this is official KPMG policy, I'm sure it's not. I'm just saying for me personally, when I'm looking at individuals, and I'll talk probably more about people who are already at KPMG and I'm considering promoting them, etc. It's the what, the where, the when, even the how. I think almost everyone asks those questions. The why is a question not as many people ask as they should, and that to me personally is a very, very useful skill, because you'll approach things very differently. Now remember, we spend most of our time working with clients, and the client will tell you the what, the when, the where, and the how, and oftentimes they won't tell you the why. And some of my best conversations with clients are when I ask why. Right, because you're a consultant, you're trying to sell the project to the client, and the client says, "Yeah, this is what I want." You're all excited. You're like, "Okay, let me go, get a proposal done and what have you." Let me not ask questions like why, because the client may change their mind. They won't change their mind, right? You've got to ask why, and sometimes they have a great answer that gives you insight that you didn't have before, and as a result, you can be more responsive to what they need. And sometimes they can't articulate it pretty well, and then you can work with them to say, "Hey, let me help you articulate that in a way that," because whenever you're making a change in the organization, that's really what you call them consultants. You have to sell it to your organization. You have to make sure your teams understand why you're making the change. Nobody likes change. Nobody likes change. So you have to explain it to them, and if you can't articulate the why, then you won't be able to bring the people. So that to me is a policy in particular that I look for in getting people considered for promotions and.
So, what is your advice for the post-COVID generation who's going to go into the workforce or just started? What are some of the key soft skills that you see are missing or they can improve on?
So I don't know if it's just the generation about to start work, but I think COVID impacted all generations, and I think we've lost a step in the human interaction, and really mean human interaction, face-to-face human interaction. This is not a return to office debate that I want to get into here, but this is just in the office, whether you're remote or what have you. People buy from people they like, they know, they have a relationship with. Of course, if your offering is substandard, they won't do it. But if your offering is on par, the person they know better, the person they trust better, the person they have met in person is the one that they're going to choose. It's just human nature. So that ability, the comfort, the confidence, the persistence of building those human relationships, I think we've lost a step on that. And we need to invest time in it. If you feel that you don't have that fully locked, you have to come to KPMG for that. There's no resources available that can do that, and try it out. It's in a lower stake environment that you're in right now, right? Make more friends, make more relationships, and it's not just connecting with them on LinkedIn, right? It's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I have like 6,000 connections, so I'm not saying that's an issue. But don't think that's a replacement for that in-person connection. It is hugely important. And if you feel you're not good at it today, now's the time to get good at it because you will need that for the rest of your career.
You and I met when we were serving in a nonprofit.
That's right.
I know many ways we give back to the community. Can you talk about how important it is, even at a younger age, to get involved in the nonprofit work or giving back, and how does it really impact your professional career?
So I think it's. I'll just say you have to feel it, and it has to be a cause. It has to be an area that you care about, and it may help you in your professional career. There are obviously we have expectations that our people will be active in their community and giving back to their communities. So I think it'll help you in that regard. But I think the biggest help is probably in your personal well-being and how you are. So if you are truly passionate, but don't do it to tick a box. That's the one advice I will have for you. Just think about, and if you say, well, there isn't anything that excites me all that much, think again. There is. You just don't know it. Find that thing, and this is in the U.S. only, or
global.
Okay, all right. I was going to say you're the center of the universe. I don't want to alienate too many members.
You want to feel that way, but
right. So, in terms of opportunities to get involved in almost anything that you may be passionate about is probably available to you, present to you there. And I think just the fulfillment that you get from it, and the personal growth and development, and you bump into people that you wouldn't bump into otherwise. I think it's linked to that interpersonal relation. That's Exhibit A right over here. I don't think you would have come across otherwise. So for a number of those reasons, I would highly recommend it.
Okay. And we're going to open up for Q&A, just a couple of final questions. What advice or what do you wish you would have known when you were 25 years old? There's a lot, but that question always pops up. So,
I wish I had been a little bit more. I don't think it hurt me any, but I wish I'd been a little bit more strategic and forward thinking about what I was going to do. I'm lucky because I happen to find an organization and an industry that, in hindsight, is actually a really good fit. But I don't think if I go back when I was 25, I'm not sure I had a plan 3 months out, leave alone 3 years or 10 years out. So, some of you are going to be big planners and others of you are not. I would say it's probably, and the world's moving a lot faster, and the environment that I grew up in is probably different than the environment now. I would say think about which direction that you want to go in, and don't feel bad if within 2 years you've decided to do something completely different. That's actually quite healthy, right? But just think about, hey, what's the next 3 years? What's the next 5 years? This is where the personal board of directors comes in as well. And set yourself some targets. Set yourself some, don't stress yourself out by setting unachievable targets, what have you. But just directionally, where are you going and where are you going to be? I think it's helpful. I think it's healthy. I think it informs some of your day-to-day decisions. And I think from a career perspective, I know I didn't think that far ahead. So sometimes it works out. So don't, but I would say in hindsight, I probably would have done that. And it's not, obviously you make conscious decisions as you go. As did I, around at one point, I was thinking, hey, maybe I need to started consulting, but then go into banking. It's a very typical thing people do. I didn't in the end, but just having a little bit of that path and plan is
So my final question before I go to students, when we were entering careers, our choices were much easier, right? Because it was all spread out. Things are very unpredictable. You know, as a leader sitting where you are, what are some of the major impacts you've seen professionally that they should be aware of entering the workforce?
well, I think I don't have the stats to back this up, but there are folks who would say um, pick the industry, pick the company, don't worry about the job you're going into. Right? You can go inside it and do that. And I think that's still kind of true, but it's becoming less true. Because in the past, if you picked a big company, chances are that over the course of your career, you're going to be a big success. I think that's changed. So there are highly successful companies that are less than 20 years old now. And there were highly successful companies that are barely existent now. So I think you're going to need to be a little bit more agile in your thinking. And I think you can't predict which company is going to be flying high or having challenges 20 years from now. So do your diligence. Make sure you're going to the right company. But then I think the difference between then and now, you're probably going to need to evaluate that a little bit more rapidly. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of the winning and losing happening at a more rapid and volatile pace than we've seen before. So keep your assessment. And I've seen, again, long career serving a lot of clients, and you can see folks who are there until the bitter end. For certain things that are not working out too well. I think it's more important now to do a little bit of that planning and more active management of career than perhaps was the need before.
Good advice. Yeah, I say be more flexible, more adaptable, and have an open mind. Because there's, unfortunately or fortunately, you have 40 years of career ahead of you. Okay, let's open to some Q&As. Just identify yourself and then ask the question. Who wants to go? Okay. 1, 2. Okay.
Hi, Atif. Thanks so much for making time for us. My name is Ekta Khurana. I'm in the second year pursuing Masters in Integrated Marketing. I am going to ask another question, but I want to build on the question that you just answered. And you said that one of the ways to start building your career is to figure out the industry, right? And the company.
Yeah.
And the previous answer that you gave was more about figure out where you long-term see yourself. Like at least have a plan and then tweak it as well. So I was thinking, should it not be your choice? Should it not be on the basis of the role that you want to be in and then figure out the industry? Because you can always flip around depending upon the interest and your strengths.
Yeah.
How about that?
No, I think that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, you could say, hey, listen, I want to be a CMO one day, and almost the company almost isn't important. So.
I mean, that would still be.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't. I will tell you, there are obviously roles, and roles come with definitions, but there's a lot of fungibility and blurred lines between how each role is operated within the companies. Now, CMO may be an example that's actually reasonably well defined. But even there, you would see that they'll have very different roles. So the way to reconcile it is to say that even in that sort of environment that you want to be a CMO, when you're actually in the company, you may find that being part of the C-suite, you may get opportunities to do something different. So you're in that industry, you're in that company, and yes, you were there as a CMO, but now we're asking you to do something different, and you may find that equally exciting. Because sitting here 10 years out, what have you, you may not. When you get there, you may find other things exciting. So it's important to have those options open. But I will concede that I get your point, that it may be if that is the one thing that you want to do, then yeah, you probably do need to look at the role first.
Or you can create a company. Yes.
Thank you for sharing. I'm Grace. I'm the graduate student, and this is the last semester for me to in you. So it's quite emergent thing is to find a job. I've been thinking of finding a job in KPMG, and some of my classmates or the friends they work or have the internship in KPMG, and I'd like to know what kind of skills, like the physical, practical skills, like software, do you recommend a student to acquire? Or to, sometimes they have a list of the skills that you should, but they don't tell you that you must have. And when you apply for a job, they say you don't have the equipment or you don't have the skills passed.
Yeah, no, I know. The challenge, Grace, with that is that it differs by the role that you're looking at. If you were to generalize, I would broadly say digital acumen is particularly prized because we need it, our clients need it. How it manifests in an individual obviously can vary, individual person as well as an individual role, right? But I think if you were to say a broad base, what is valued and not, I think that's the one thing that we probably can't get enough of. More time.
Okay. Hey, you had a question and then.
Oh, yeah. I have a question about leadership. Earlier, you're talking about the vision. You have to let a team know your vision. Maybe, I guess, it through a meeting. But I wonder if any other way or tactics to let a team, especially the whole team, to feel your vision. Because they're saying leader and the manager is different. Because sometimes a great leader in history, they're ideologists. They can lead people to the goal. It's not like I always say, oh, you have to work hard, you have to So any tactics on that?
So the other big thing, and that's a miss on my part if I didn't mention it, is you go through it, show it through your actions. And not only have the actions in line with your vision, but when you're taking those actions and communicating those actions, say that you're doing it because this is your vision. Link it back to them. And then it becomes, so, the first 3 times you say it, people don't really get it, right? So the 4th time they're beginning to listen. So you've got to say it, you've got to keep saying it, show it through your actions, and then make the connection for them that I did X instead of Y because X is in line with the vision and Y is not. So that's another tactic in making sure that people are aware of your vision and can actually see it in the decision you're making.
Well, hi, thank you. My name is Afri. I'm from Indonesia. I have a question regarding, well, I've been working at tech in my country. I've been working for 6 years. And I actually have one of my best friends where she was actually in consulting. And we had years of experience, the same years of experience. And now she just got hired as the chief of staff in Xiaomi Indonesia, which is the director of Xiaomi Indonesia. And I think that was quite surprising because I guess since we have the same amount of time working together, but I know the difference that the consulting creates between the two of us. I mean, so what do you think any qualities that sets her apart compared to other people who do not have consulting experience when it comes to coming into a certain level of or a position in a big company? So yeah,
I think it's definitely true that in consulting and professional services in general, you do get exposed at an earlier stage in your career to more senior individuals and more varied leaders. So you're working at a client, and the client, you may meet a number of different leaders. You go to another client or another industry, etc. So that, I don't know about your friend, obviously, but that could be a reason because you can develop faster in those interactions because you have the opportunity, to have those interactions, whereas there are other parts of our business or, other businesses or industries where you may not have that opportunity. So that could be a reason where, you want to develop faster.
Follow-up question?
Let's keep it to one question. A lot of people want to ask questions, and we have only 5 minutes left.
Hi, Atif. My name is Joy. I'm currently a graduate student under the Integrated Marketing Program, and I have a question for you that added on for a paper question that you have answered. You were saying like when you were 25, you would help yourself like think more strategically about our future. Yeah, and then like you were lucky that later it turns out that consulting is something that good fit for you. Yeah, then I wonder like what kind of personality or person would you think that consider as a good fit for a consultant? Consulting industry.
That's a great one. That's a great one. I think you've got to combine. So there's the people aspect of it. You've got to like people, and you've got to be good with interpersonal skills. It's very, very important. You've got to be good with change. So I will tell you the one thing that took me a little bit of getting used to is oftentimes you're not in one place for very long, right? So you don't go to the same office every day. You may not even be in the same city every day. So that's some people get energy from it, and some people are like, "Oh my God, this is really pretty hard." The other thing I would say that is probably a long list, but I'll stop after this third one is being able to adapt and grow at a much faster pace. I'll give you an example. One of my mentors told me this a very long time ago. He was a specialist, very, very sought after in a particularly new accounting pronouncement. And like you couldn't get his time. He was the most, hot commodity or what have you. And then the implementation period for that ended, right? So everyone had done it already. And he's like, I'm a Christmas tree on December 26th. You've got to reinvent yourself, right? So what is it that I'm going to do next? Now, obviously, he's not going to go become a nuclear scientist after that. He's going to find something adjacent, right, to what he was good at. But that happens very, very often and probably at a faster pace than in many other professions. So those are a couple of examples. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah. One last question.
Hi, my name is Dina. I'm also a second year integrated marketing master student. And I'm just curious to know what's the most impactful project or client that you work with that really changed your trajectory as a consultant or gave it impact?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think there's a client that I made partner on. That was probably the one. I can tell you the name for confidentiality reasons. But it was a client that wasn't a very big client for us. This was probably one of the first big projects we had gone for them. And they are known, if I could tell you the name, you'll know instantly, as being tough clients and really high standards of what you expect. And I do think that was quite transformative because we were concerned about how we're going to serve them and how to get to their standard. I was lucky enough to be chosen to be part of the team, and I was able to make a difference that got, I think, recognized not by the client, but KPMG as well. In fact, the client had it's a world-class organization. It is a world-class organization. So whereas in another client, it might be the individual that I was working with most directly that might have made a call. So they made a call to KPMG and they said, hey, he's ready to be a partner. We would like to see him as a partner. We would like him to continue serving us as a partner, which is very, very nice of them. But they're such a world-class organization. They did an internal vetting process on me for an external provider, right? So they said, okay, who are the main people that he has interacted with at the client? They had a call, and then when they reached consensus, then they made the call to KPMG. And I didn't know that they did that, but I was in London with them, and I was meeting one of the key client executives over there, and I said, hey, I got promoted. He goes, I know, I was part of the call. There was a call. Yes, there was a call. There was like a handful of us on it, and this was one of the items to say, hey, what do you guys think? And should we recommend them to get promoted?
So they're doing diligence process.
Yes.
Well, Atif, we want to thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing your experience and guiding Thank you so much. I want to thank all the students in the Zoom.